Hello everyone, Dawnnie here, and today I thought I would do a reading of Pick a Group or Pick a Pile for a springtime message. So go ahead and take a moment, take a deep breath, and sort of take in what you feel or sense from these particular piles and see which one vibrates a little bit higher or seems to have a brighter sort of vibrancy to it, or sort of pulls you in, or you just feel that there's something about it that's calling to you. The book pile, the heart pile, or the sun pile. But take a moment, take a deep breath, and go ahead and choose which one it is that you feel most drawn to, that you're being guided to choose to get the message that is meant for you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start with the pile that has the book on it. And with this one, I'm going to start with the image of the book. And I feel like this is a call to digging a little bit deeper, a little bit of understanding, a little bit more comprehension. I feel this is not so much with education and training. It may apply to some of you, that may resonate with some of you, but again, this is a very generalized reading, so this is going to be reaching a massive amount of people, and the vibration of this feels more inclined towards people who are digging to understand something on a very personal, very internal concept. And so those of you who that resonates for, you're just being asked to dig a little bit deeper. Overall, a very general concept is that there's something that you already know, there's something that you already understand, that you feel fairly comfortable in what you believe is a truth about that subject matter, but you want to dig a little bit deeper. You're being told to dive deeper, go a little bit deeper in that subject matter, looking at it from different angles, and sort of trying to get a better feel of what kind of depth that you can add to your understanding regarding this. And if it's something on a very personal level, I feel that for some of you it's spiritual, just diving a little bit deep and trying to find what it is that you believe is your own personal truth regarding this. How does it resonate much broader, more expanded, and it provides you a better pathway to growth and expansion. We also have the Ace of Cups with this group of cards, and I feel like you're being told this is sort of supporting what I already said about there being an emotional aspect. There's a new beginning on an emotional plane, and it does not feel love or relationship unless you're concluding the concept of relationship with self, which of course is its own relationship, and our relationship with ourself does have a tendency to define our relationship with others. So if you're going to look at it from a relationship concept, that's the direction or the angle you're supposed to be looking at it, a relationship with yourself. But there is an emotional aspect of it, and there's a sense of joy that's coming. There's a sense of getting a point where you are concluding something that no longer fit, releasing something that no longer fit, that's going to create space for a new idea or new concept or new means of pondering how you feel about this aspect of your life, the emotional aspect of your life. And again, if this is coming from the perspective or the angle of a relationship with yourself, you're going to get to a point where you're opening up the doorways for you to understand your relationship with yourself and the definition of that relationship with yourself, and how it impacts your relationship, say, with your siblings, your parents, your cousins, aunts and uncles, other people of your family, potentially those who are your lovers. Be you in a committed relationship or looking to be in a committed relationship, doesn't matter. It applies either way. And even friends, people who you perceive as friends, people who you may have lost as friends. You may understand where that loss is coming from, but there's just a newness that's coming. There's going to be some revelations that you're going to be experiencing in this springtime that's going to allow you to come to a better foundation of understanding of yourself, broaden your personal acceptance of yourself, and from that give you a foundation for growing relationships outside of yourself and how you connect with other people and how they're going to be considered important to you and how you can bond and connect and build upon that. And we have the Hierophant, and I feel like, again, this is just this is more validation for what have already kind of indicated here. And Hierophant has to do with that person of knowledge, that person who has gone through the specific sorts of training in that particular trying to think of the word, it kind of escaped me. That sort of, that position of understanding, kind of like in religion, in the Catholic or the Christian religion, you have the minister or the priest, but in other aspects of religion or spirituality, you have the sage or the shaman, and those sorts of people in those positions of knowledge. But I feel like this is just kind of indicating more so that you are going to become that for yourself. These revelations and these steps that you're taking, and that springtime energy and the newness that spring is going to be presenting for you on a personal level, it's just opening up the floodgates of personal understanding of your emotional status and giving you a position of power and understanding that you've not felt yet, but you have been looking to understand. You've been looking to reach. And it's just kind of, there's going to be these small steps that you're going to be taking, these small revelations and small situations and experiences that's just going to continue to get you to continue to look more for better understanding, opening the pathway more for that flow of understanding and compassion towards yourself, and get to you to a point where you feel like you are in a position of power of yourself, your emotion, and your relationships and your connections. And following that, we have unplug. I feel this is more a message of something that you need to be doing for yourself as you're going through this experience to sort of heighten the capacity to sort of open up the pathways a little bit more for this energy that is going to be available for you to happen. There is a request to unplug, and I feel this is very much speaking specifically towards social media, and sometimes the experiences that too much time, or just even a little bit of time, but getting too much exposure to a certain sort of algorithm kind of brings us down. So it's not so much a time thing. Sometimes you can spend just a minute on a social media platform and just be bombarded with a certain sort of energy that brings us down, or sorts of leads us in a way to kind of shut off in ways that's not exactly the healthiest, or kind of rewires or reroutes how we think, or can even impact our day. So it's not a length of time thing as much as just the break will kind of give you a clean start or a clean palette, so to speak. So just kind of pay attention to your time on social media, and just any interaction with media in general. Make sure that any sorts of media that you are consuming is something that is continuing to feed this growth and expansion that you can experience should you feed it and nurture it accordingly. So again, it's not so much a length of time, it's not so much how much you're taking in, it's the content of what you're taking in. And if you find that it doesn't matter what you're consuming in the means of media, if it always seems to reroute or seems to impact you in a negative way, adjust that. Make sure that all contents of media that you're consuming in the next couple weeks have a tendency to be nurturing, have a tendency to be loving, have a tendency to be something that is boosting your morale, boosting you and your conquest to reaching that position of power in your emotional life and the status of yourself, relationship with yourself as well as others. So unplugging can mean different things for different people. Make sure you understand what that means for you. And if it is healthiest to unplug completely, try to find a means to do that. But if you find that that doesn't necessarily work for you, make sure that what you're bringing in, what you're consuming in, nurtures this growth that you are about to embark upon. And finally, we have this card from The Universe Has Your Back, and it says, I let go of the shadow of the past by seeing someone for the first time with the eyes of love. And I feel like the someone that this particular card is referring to is you, yourself, the reflection of who you see, not just in the mirror when you wake up in the morning or any other time of the day that you look in the mirror, but that third eye reflection of yourself, that spiritual reflection of yourself, who you are on the deepest part of yourself inside, letting go of those shadows, and again, just cultivating and nurturing that relationship and allowing it to help you expand your relationship with yourself, and then the worlds that will open up for you on a personal level, where it will lead. All right, that is all I have for you, for those of you who have chosen the book, and I hope you have a beautiful beginning of springtime. All right, the next group of cards that we're going to focus on is the card that is indicated with the heart. And I feel like this has to do with relationships. most especially those who are on the cusp of beginning a new relationship, or you've reached a point in your current long-term relationship where there's something new kind of coming about, a refreshing or a newness that's coming to the relationship. So either way, but there's a newness that is involved with this message in some regards. So please keep in mind that these messages are generalized if you are for a massive amount of people, whoever comes to view these videos. So if you feel inclined to this, just take that which resonates you and leave the rest for those other people who that chose this card and it might actually be more applicable. All right, so we have the heart. And like I said, this I feel very much has to do with relationship, and it has to do with a love relationship as far as a intimacy. So not so much sibling, cousin, or friend, but that significant other who is or has a potential of being a lover, and that feeling of freshness, whether it's the cusp of a new one or being in a relationship that you notice is kind of on the verge of feeling refreshed or hitting the refresh button in some regard. And we have Six of Cups. I feel that this is being directed in two different ways. Again, it's validating that what I said in the beginning regarding those few people who this is, who are already in a relationship, and they've been in a relationship for a while, and there's nothing wrong with relationship. They feel comfortable and secure and solid in it, but they feel that they recognize that there is something new on the horizon. This old is becoming new in a good way. Old, not in a bad way, just old and stable, something that's been around for a long time. You've been able to rely on it. You've been able to feel very comfortable in it. You really don't have any complaints, with the exception of maybe how it's not fresh, but you're on the verge of hitting that point where things are going to feel like a refresh button on some level is being started. And I feel for those of you that this applies to, this is in relation to how you are going to experience moments of kind of being nostalgic or being reminiscent of things that once were, or things that kind of pulled you together, and things that kind of have kept you together through different experiences that you've had in your life that has kind of culminated the relationship to what it is. But definitely kind of the old feeding the new and allowing you to see things through new eyes, and allowing you to be able to connect and deepen that connection that you have. Now, those of you who are at this point in hearing this version of the card, and you're like, I'm not in a relationship. Well, this applies to you in the sense that there is somebody that has been a part of your life who you already have a standing connection with on an emotional level, but not on a relationship, intimate, maybe even sexual level or sexual intimate level. But this long-term relationship, this connection that you have from one person to the other, is on the cusp of becoming something new. It is on the verge of being able to open up to a relationship that you can deepen into being more than just the close friends, the close confidants, the close, person that you feel you can rely on, and switching it to being someone that you feel can actually become that intimate potential lover, long-term relationship connection that you are looking for. We also have the Magician, and I feel that there are some of you who someone new is coming into your life. I hear work. So some of you, it has to do with work. Be mindful of policies with work. I'm just going to throw that out there. But some of you, it has to do with work. And there's a couple of you who are going to have a cute meet kind of relationship, but there is potential for relationship, something new that's going to help you in your personal journey as far as loving, seeking love, and relationship status. And the two things that come to mind is work was said right away. There's some of you who are going to get a connection with someone at work, and it has the potential of going somewhere. Again, be mindful of work policies and how that may impact you in the near future or in the distant future, however that may be. But the other thing that is being said is, I'm hearing coffee house. I'm hearing that there are some of you who have the potential of kind of having that bump into each other, don't really know each other, but something comes of it, something grows from it. But yeah, I'm hearing like I said, cute meets as you would see in movies that make you go, ah, or make you wish that you could have that sort of experience. And like I said, coffee house comes to mind. So that's what this is really pulling for me the most. So however that applies for you. And then we have adventure waits. So I feel like this can apply to the people who are experiencing these first two cards, but those of you who are like, this doesn't apply to me at all, this is not connecting to me one way or another, this I feel is more for you. Adventure waits. I really do feel this is speaking about, this really does have the energy of travel. Could be long term, long distance. I feel like there are some of you who will have the opportunity and have the capacity to travel, not so, it feels even out of the country that you were residing in. It doesn't necessarily have to be just, to a different state. If you live in the United States, it feels like there's potential for out of country sort of travel. And there's going to be a connection. Now, whether or not that relationship connection is long-term or just going to be something that is within the moment, that's subject to the paths that you take when you're experiencing this particular life path. But there's definitely some of you, like I said, out of country feels like mostly what this Adventure Waits card is really pushing towards. So if you're of that variety, there's a chance of experiencing a little bit of a love connection while you're out and about. And where that leads is really up to you. Some of you, Adventure Waits, it feels like some of the changes might be permanent. Like you're moving out of the country because your work is providing the experience of the opportunity. And so then in that term, you definitely have a potential of something that's going to be long term. But again, definitely a little bit of a love fest going on for those who are in a relationship, be it already intimate or something that you wish to be intimate. Some kind of seemingly magically appear, and then also a little bit of adventure can happen, out of states connection. But that's what I'm getting as far as love in the springtime for some of you. And then we're going to go ahead and put this last card up here. We have, I witness the darkness and call on the light with my prayer. Thank you, universe, for guiding me to perceive this fear through the eyes of the teacher of love. And I feel like for some of you, this doesn't apply to all of you, but this does apply to some of you who are struggling with that concept of allowing yourself to be in a loving relationship. And that can come with different reasons why. It depends on each person as to why they feel that way. But there are those of you who are in a position of feeling a little bit intimidated or a little bit fearful about the vulnerability, the rawness, and just fearful potentials that can happen when you get in a relationship that's just more than something spur of the moment or something that's committed, I guess you could say. And just being asked to let that go the best you can and trust the universe. And I'm getting the ultimate message too, that if you get to the point where you do kind of release this and you do allow yourself to get in connected with somebody, allow the experience of that relationship to be what it is. Do not put too much pressure on that relationship when you experience it. Do not demand the relationship to be something more than it presents itself in the beginning. Just go with the flow. Allow yourself to be in the moment as that relationship unfolds, and allow it to take you wherever it's to take you, and allow it to teach you whatever it is that it's supposed to teach you. And just stay connected to your spirit guides, to those who you know is on the other side, supporting you and supporting your life and your life choices and trying to guide you so that you can have the best life possible. Just allow things to unfold and trust that they are giving you what you need in that moment for that moment. And where it goes from there, they will guide accordingly. But definitely, I'm being told again to reiterate that statement. Don't put too much pressure on that connection more than it's already presenting. Don't require more from it than what it presents in the moment that it presents itself. All right, that is all I have for you for those who have chosen the heart message. I hope that this brings you prospects and expectations in the light of love in the springtime, and I hope you have a good start of your spring season. And the last group that we have to talk about is the group with the Sun card here. And I feel that the Sun is really talking about happy times, and that nurturing the Sun does as far as opening things up. So in the springtime, when the Sun kind of grows as far as the length of time that it's on Earth, it awakens things. The sap starts to flow within the trees. Trees start to bud. Eventually you get things, grass starting to poke up and flowers starting to poke up. It leads to growth and expansion. It leads to life. It leads from the dormancy and quiet of wintertime into that warmth and life that occurs from spring and into that you experience into summer. So I feel that this is something that you are going to experience in the springtime, and it's that beginning. So it's not full-fledged into the summer sun and the experience of the summer sun, but kind of pay attention to the signs around you and how that spring sun wakens up Earth and things begin to grow and blossom and flow. That's what you're going to start witnessing within your own life. Things are going to start to flow. You know, that life force within is going to start flowing a little bit easier. And nurture the rest of your life. Buds are going to start to kind of pop up. Just look for those signs that you see in spring in Earth start to happen within your life, like analogies and comparisons of how you can witness that within your life and your life experience. And that can be in any aspect of your life. So I'm not going to limit that to one thing or another, or one subject or one topic or another. That's kind of open to interpretation. So whatever it is that you've been kind of waiting, that you feel that has been sort of dormant, or you've been experiencing it being asleep during the personal winter, I'm going with the season analogy, whatever it is that you've been kind of waiting for the snow and ice to melt around and the signs of spring to kind of blossom, that area of your life, look for it to start to take on that spring sunshine and what it brings for you, because you're going to be experiencing that soon as you move through the spring energy. The first card that I have here is the Nine of Swords, and I feel that this is speaking about how whenever we start to go through that transition, there's oftentimes that back and forth that happens. Now, I don't know where you live and what kind of weather you experience, but where we live, sometimes you get a good bout of snow, and the snow and ice stays for what seems like forever, and then things start to warm up, the sun comes out, you start to see the greenery, and then it snows again. And then the snow melts, and then you have mud, and then it snows again. And then the snow melts and it seems like you have more mud. And so there's this like back and forth that sort of occurs before you really get into spring and the mud dries up and you start to feel that hope that winter is actually finally gone and summer is actually on its way. And it's that kind of flip-flop transition that I'm referring to. When I see the Nine of Swords, I feel like you're being told to not get yourself too caught up in that flip-flop. Don't get too caught up when it snows again, going with the analogy again. Don't get too caught up when you see the mud and when you get tired of the mud being tracked in the house, you know, that aspect of your life and how you have to clean it up all the time and everything's all dusty and muddy. Don't get too caught up in in the transition. Don't let the transition weigh you down. Don't let the transition from what was into what's coming get you feeling exhausted and full of anxiety and tired and frustrated. There's nothing wrong with validating those feelings. There's nothing wrong with recognizing that is how you feel and that is what you're experiencing, but don't let it become your focal point. Allow yourself to recognize that this is temporary. It's part of the process. It's part of the transition from what was into what is coming, into what you're growing, into what will be growing soon, as that spring eventually comes full force, and then of course eventually turns into summer. So don't get too caught up in that. And this is being validated in the Wheel of Fortune card. This is just kind of really pushing home that concept of time and how this process takes time. The transition takes time. And I get it. I understand. It's frustrating when it flops back and forth. It's frustrating when you get 60-degree weather and then in a couple days it's cold and snowing and you have to don all the winter clothes once again and you just want it to be done because the winter has been long. I totally understand. And again, there's nothing wrong with recognizing and validating it, but just remember, it's only one season. The season does give way to the next one, and it's just a matter of time. It takes time for that transition from one thing to the next, and allow yourself to, when you get overwhelmed with those Nine of Swords moments of feeling, that anxiety or that heavy emotion and experiencing that frustration that comes from transition, just remember, try to switch the focal point from how you're feeling, validate it, but then also remind yourself, spring is coming, it takes time, but time still ticks on. It's still going to happen. It's still going to transition. It's going to be fine. You just got to kind of work through, flow with nature, flow with the seasons, flow with the transition. You'll get there in time. It will happen. And then we have the next message we have is say you're sorry. And I feel like during this particular transition, before this transition, there's some of you who have experienced a loss of a connection or relationship with someone who at one point in time meant a lot to you. But when you were going through that particular winter of your life, sticking with the season analogy, you got disconnected with that person. And I'm not saying that you're required to go and tell that person you're sorry. It depends on whatever happened. You know the situation, you know the experience, you know what unfolded, you know what needs to be done. This is just a very generalized information or message to let you know that there are some of those people, or there are some of you who have people who you've become a bit disconnected with, and you're being asked to reevaluate what caused that disconnect and do what it takes within reason that doesn't have you sacrificing your sovereignty to have them back in your life. Because I feel there are some of you, the disconnect, it does not have to be as permanent as it has become. And then that's all I'm going to say. However that applies to you, allow it to apply. I feel like I just have to really stress that point, though. It's not saying you have to say sorry. It's not saying that you have to put yourself in a position where you are giving up your personal sovereignty. Evaluate the situation and be guided. You are already guided in thinking about that person, and already have been guided in reevaluating that situation. And so there's just, a process of considering it from the whole picture perspective, the broader picture, and doing what you know and you feel and you're being guided is the right thing to reconnect if you feel that that is something that you desire and something that you feel like you're being pushed to do. I feel like that's a fairly specific, there are people who that's going to resonate so hard with, and if that's the case, then that's for you. And the last message we have is, the moment I embrace my peace within and surrender the outcome is the moment that the universe can truly get to work. Again, this is, I think, really touching base of the overall message of shift is coming, transition is coming. You're going from one season to the next, and it is going to be a bit muddy. It's going to be a bit messy. It's going to be a bit back and forth for a bit, and you're just supposed to go with the flow. Allow yourself the time that it takes. And whether it is that person or individuals, one or more than one, that you feel being pulled or drawn to reconnect with, or if it's just that concept of how you can kind of get inside your own head regarding the narrative of your experience, and maybe even kind of pull yourself down in the process. No matter what it is, just surrender to the process of time. Allow yourself to be guided by your higher self, your intuition, your spirit guides, that connection to the other side that you already have, to let you know what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And sometimes you're supposed to be doing something, and sometimes you're just supposed to be allowing time to take its course. But if you're ever in a moment where you don't know, just take a moment to take a pause and connect with your higher self and those that you feel are guiding you to get a better insight on what you're supposed to do. But just remember to go with the flow, be at peace and embracing this transition for what it is. Do what it is that you need to do, and allow yourself to give space for the universe to do what it's supposed to do for you in the process. All right, that is all I have for you guys today. I hope that this message touched your heart and inspired you and empowered you in your life journey in the coming of spring. And hopefully I will see you in another video soon. Thank you and have a beautiful day.